Okay, yeah. So now we're dealing with the ethics of altruism. As much as we may think like, oh, practicing six paramitas themselves might account for altruistic uh, practice because of its being infused or what do you call sustained by bodhicitta. But apparently, by the ethics of altruism, it seems to uh, point to even a very specific precepts other than the six paramitas. So, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes you'll come across a reference saying everything that Bodhisattva does is included in the six paramitas. And six paramita kind of encompasses everything. So that's one way of looking at it, because that would also have the paramita of ethics. So in a way, it includes everything. But then another way of laying out Bodhisattva's activities would be within the spectrum of the, within the scope of the six, within the scope of just the three ethical conducts, and that will include everything again. Like within the ethic of virtue, all the six parameters will be included there, and that leaves the ethic of altruism separate to be dealt with. So there's this mention of 11 ways of 11 what do you call explicitly spelled out areas of serving others. And sometimes there is a difference in how you enumerate them, making it a total of 12. But basically, the usual expression that goes with that is the 11 ways of 11 ways of serving the welfare of others. But right now here, we are not going through the 11. We could go through them, some of those are, or we could just go quickly through them. It's interesting as well as very important for those who are upholding the Bodhisattva precepts to be reminded of, as well as others to have a sense of what would be the proper expected Bodhisattva worthy way of serving others. In a way, education is very, very important, right? To know what is the standard, what is not. Otherwise, then that kind of living things in darkness also is an area that abuses happen. And in the case of Bodhisattva precepts, as well as in Tantric precepts, knowing them beforehand is what is even expected and what you call even prescribed or advised, as opposed to pratimoksha vows, right? So it's very important to know them. So first, let me see if I can pass the test. Because the metaphors are too many, there's just no way I can. So I ask for patience and yes. So ethics of altruism. So how a bodhisattva is to go about serving others. So it gives this example of undeterred parents who would go to extreme length when it comes to serving their children, right? They wouldn't care about their life, even their about their health, even about their life, and would do whatever is within their capacity to help their children. So there is no such thing as kyoa, kyotup. This, what would be an English term? Kyoa. No sense of holding back. No sense of holding back. No sense of reluctance. Pardon? Yeah, but I think more so it is weariness. Yeah, feeling kind of tired, or feeling. But it has some sense in Tibetan when we use the term kyoa. It has some sense of what is it? Lacking in the energy, lacking in the spirit. So I suppose it's very close to weariness. But at the same time, we wouldn't say tiredness. It's so strange. It has a touch of not enthusiastic. Not that they show tiredness, but they show a sense of not really pulling off, no enthusiasm, kind of holding back. What would that be? Any, pardon? Yeah, reluctance, hesitancy. Yeah, but then for that we have a specific term. Kyoa has a sense of not upbeat, not capable of lifting up the spirit to do that. So there's an element of holding back. Yeah, reluctance, weariness, hesitance, maybe 30% of each. Pardon?
Deterred, undeterred, deterred.
I see. But you shouldn't count too much on the English here. Because it would be good to know how I work on this, because there is no existing English text. So I work in Tibetan and then do my best in really choosing the word that I could manage within the given time. Otherwise, Tanya would be waiting there. So, and then it would be only the time to come here, etc. Yeah. So, yeah. Yes, definitely. It also so nothing deters them. Yes, nothing deters them. Nothing holds them back when it comes to serving their children. So, likewise, bodhisattvas should have a similar spirit. Now, in terms of whether to actually go and do something, again, they have to be realistic. The spirit should be always there. If not, that's what one has to train. Now, it has to be also realistic in terms of how much you can do or how much you cannot do, how much when you do would even turn out detrimental. So that's a very important consideration that they have to make. So in the case of the bodhisattva practice, it's not that right from the day one you are expected to do all of that. It's like training slowly and slowly and slowly. So likewise, bodhisattvas has to, when it comes to serving sentient beings, so then we would have idea of in what ways serving sentient beings is being considered here. Does any ways that we think of serving sentient beings in need be included in here? So that's what what our discussion on the 11 or the 12 listed out areas will help us consider, help us understand, and also from there we can infer what something, if not explicitly mentioned, could be included. Because these lists are not necessarily explicitly exhaustive. They are kind of the best shot in kind of really encompassing them. Yeah, so it says that when it comes to serving the welfare of sentient beings, bodhisattvas at least should aspire to have similar kind of undeterred enthusiasm. At the very least, at the spirit level, that's what they should be aiming at. And then, in terms of actually kind of acting that out, that should be commensurate with what they are capable of doing it meaningfully, doing it beneficially, usefully. So the text also very clearly mentions you have to be realistic in how much you can do, or how else you might, what do you call, risk undoing or risk creating damage. But the spirit should be trained then, and eventually the actual capacity will catch up. But when it catches up, then the antideterrence should be both in terms of spirit as well as the execution. And then it says that in this respect, the support that the bodhisattvas should be rely on would be their cultivation of the four immeasurables. And by way of learning the courage, and by way of learning the courage from examples, it suggests looking into earlier stories of bodhisattva activities, bodhisattva sacrifices, kind of then, at the very least, kind of aspire to reach up to that level. Although, again, as I said, in terms of actual execution of it, it has to be looked at in a realistic way of how and what one is capable. So it says, yes, do remember and look into the stories of earlier bodhisattvas and their activities, and then along with training in aspiration, kind of do execute to the level that is commensurate with one's capacity. And then the third one. Particularly, it says that in the case of beginners, in the case of beginner bodhisattvas, as much as it is laid out that part of one's morality would consist of reaching out to sentient beings and helping out. But it says that at that level, the main form of serving others would be not bring confusion, not add to the confusion, not add to the damage. So also be aware that that too counts for consciously kind of being aware of that and restraining from doing things, from becoming worse, would also constitute serving others, being of service to others, and that would be the primary focus at the beginning level. It says that whereas the actual verbal and physical action would be secondary, could be left secondary at that time, but mainly train in the spirit aspiration, but at the same time think of actively contributing to the well-being of others by not adding to the confusion. Here, a very interesting example is given. There is a scenario where the whole area is struck by famine, and there's this family with the husband, the mother, and the child. All they are left with is maybe just this size of meat, and and they have no idea of where they would get the next supply. So what the father did was, father took that piece of meat and left. Oh, the mother thought, how dare he? He left the two of us behind and took whatever was remaining and left us with no sign of where he's going, what. Before they ran out of patience, the father came back with this huge meat. And the father also said, you must have thought that I left you with taking whatever was there. No. There's no way that was going to satisfy all of us, that was going to meet our needs. But at the same time, that was what sustained me in the process of searching for it. So this is a very important message that's being reiterated here, revisited here in the whole course of this discourse on the ethics of altruism. That yes, be very clear. Don't rush in reaching out to others. I've met people saying, "Oh, I'm so disturbed. No matter how much I try to help, instead of being helped, they misunderstand me. Even they misunderstand me. Even take me wrong, etc., etc. They become kind of discouraged." And then I say, of course, that's so good. One has that kind of a sense, that kind of a concern. But that shows that, yes, there are some homework for you to do in terms of knowing the person that you were talking about, the backgrounds, whatnot. But at the same time, kind of building one's own courage, one's own mental strength. Be that in the sense of being not too impatient, be that in the sense of being kind of looking farther and bringing the bigger picture into account, etc., etc. So this example of Shasuk comes again and again and again. It says that don't rush. Despite this kind of a precept that you have, but don't rush. Be very, realistic in terms of what you can do and what. So take time in building yourself, right? So that's the message here. And then another example being used again and again is a medicinal plant is planted, a medicinal seed is planted, and the sprout comes. Don't rush to get whatever is there at the sapling level. Protect it, rather. Let it grow. Have the patience and let it grow. And then let it grow into a big tree. Then you would have abundant medicine from there. No matter how much you take, you keep getting back. But if you hurry and then kind of take whatever was there at the sapling level, you would have destroyed it. So likewise, it says, do watch your own level of bodhicitta. Don't just get carried away by the fact that you have taken bodhicitta, taken bodhisattva vow, and you have kind of enthusiastic about it. Just don't merely count on that. Be realistic in seeing how strong it is and build it. Take time, have patience in letting that grow to a very vibrant strength. And in this text, it keeps coming. Satopne means wait until you attain bhumi, which is part of seeing. That would be too long. But what I think is, that makes perfect sense, because that's when one would have in-out knowledge of others. And one would have the flexibility, the dexterity, be that from the wisdom part or from the method part, and plus one would have the added what do you call super knowledges, etc. That's be much more equipped. So it says, it even says at the merger level, at the path of preparation level, that's when you have to focus on your growth. Wait until the path of seeing comes, then that's when reaching out, doing out could take precedence. Until then, let that be on the sideline. But what we can learn from this is that even as we, struggle in building our own efforts, when we are met with a situation where there's no one else kind of chipping in, then other than you, kind of remember that although one is in that role of reaching out to others, but yes, there's more need for oneself to look inside in the process of helping out. In a way, kind of let that have a look of reaching out, but kind of let it be in from your part, more focus in watching oneself and building oneself in the process. So in that way, there wouldn't be a contradiction, or there wouldn't be any kind of a conflict in terms of one's own level of growth and the form your action is taking. That's how I would try to compromise. Otherwise, if we were to all wait until path of seeing, there will be no one doing anything. That would be a little difficult. Or maybe if we do so, those who are at the path of seeing and beyond might then feel like now they can come. Joking. So what is that? Yeah, so observant eye. Miki te de la kwechebe. Yeah, even when you have something to fix, something like that, you would do much better job by looking at it and holding it with the eyes and hands all together on one thing, right? There's very many chance of breaking it or doing it, undoing it or doing it wrongly if you are like this, right? The eye is on somewhere and the hands are somewhere, right? So likewise, it says that Shiravki Miki, compassion like hand may want to reach out, but let the eye of wisdom see whether you really want to reach out, or if so, how far, for how long. Let compassion walk hand in hand with let wisdom walk hand in hand with compassion. Don't let just compassion kind of take over. Then there is more possibility, better chance of actually achieving what you intended to achieve. Otherwise, you may have just barely been there, but not really make any much difference. In many cases, without the wisdom, compassion could even turn things wrongly also. So mere compassion is mere enthusiasm or mere compassion, that is not enough. And he says that in terms of the wisdom examining the situation, the eye of wisdom examining the situation or observing the situation, while the compassion like hand reaches out, the areas of examination for the eye could be counted as 6: examining oneself, examining other, examining one's own spiritual dexterity, etc. So, and it sums it up in saying that basically one has to weigh between how what one is doing is going to affect one's own growth. It may be particularly at the, it doesn't say it's at the initial level, but it says that one has to not overlook the fact that one has to build the strength of one's study, contemplation, and meditation. So if some project that you are required to do, or something, that's provided if you have a choice, right? Otherwise, as the situations where you just have to. If you don't have choice, then there's no question of weighing between the two. But otherwise, it says that if in any way that project or that activity is not going to affect your study, contemplation, and meditation adversely, then yes, definitely do it. And that too, again, in alignment with one's capacity. But if one's study, one's own personal growth is compromised, right? If one's own is compromised by doing this activity that's meant for serving others, then one has to wait for the right time, or rather shouldn't rush for that. In some cases, it could even amount to transgression of one's precept, even. Because basically, you want to be able to serve others in the long run for a much more sustained time, that too with much better capacity. And for that, building one's strength cannot be compromised at all under any circumstances.
My question is as you're being patient, and you mentioned to go and focus more internally, are you referring then to meditation, contemplation, or is there other activities? Or
it's meditation, contemplation.
Okay, I didn't know.
Beginning with study, contemplation, and meditation.
Okay.
Yes. So that's what 6 examinations is. It's not completely spelled out. It kind of subsumes it in the form of this kind of juxtaposition of how this is affecting one's own development, and so based on that, one should make the choice. And again, that also, what weighs in is what that service is. If that service is so big, so important, right, so significant, then yes, even certain even some amount of one study practice could be could be led to be affected by that. So again, there's this very thorough pros and cons to be weighed. Basically, it's saying for a very petty thing, don't compromise, don't sacrifice big, even if it is serving others. For the sake of a very small petty thing, don't sacrifice big things. And if compared with how it's affecting one's study, practice, whatnot, if the the benefits are equal, then yes, definitely go for benefiting others. So it's the orientation. The orientation is towards serving others, but doing it in a very judicious way. When it is very clearly mentioned in Shantideva's text, don't don't sacrifice big for small, right? Although the main priority should be in benefiting others, but merely for the sake of benefiting others, don't let go of even bigger, more significant things that could come of service later on. Okay, so then, taking one's own body as example. So basically, in the case of a bodhisattva, one way of judging what to do to others would be to see if that same thing is done to you, how would one feel? So from that perspective, see what would be an appropriate thing to do to others. We have a saying in Tibetan. Sometimes we see that in the rituals also, but somehow in some certain texts it is cited as a folk saying, not an actual scriptural quotation. But how it runs is this way. Take one's body as example. Then don't do to others what would harm you. So kind of basing how that would, if applied to oneself, how that would affect one's own situation. So basically that's the golden rule, right? Exactly. I mean, speaking of golden rule, it's amazing how strikingly so similar they are. Right? I just accidentally came upon a poster where it gives golden rules as it is spelled out in different major religions, very precisely quoting even the specific text, etc. It's amazing. It all comes to just one thing. Do to others what you would want them to do to you. Don't do to others what you wouldn't want to do to. Wow, it is so amazing. And despite that fact, in practicality, that doesn't seem to be. So that's the reason why His Holiness has been calling for another level of ethics, because there's this, not that it is not included in other religions or the major religions, but there's this need of kind of waking up. Come on, this tea has water in it, don't you know? It's like that. Saying, let's first make sure the water is clean, right? And then on the basis of that, then yes, whoever wants tea could make tea, coffee could coffee, smoothies and smoothies, whatever, right? But be reminded that none of that comes without water. And to make sure those drinks are good and healthy, whatnot, the water should be clean. But at the same time, be reminded, the water, as essential as it is not as rich as tea, not as rich as coffee, not as rich as smoothie. That's exactly how His Holiness conveys his concept of secular ethics.
His concept of what?
Secular ethics.
Secular.
Yeah. He actually gives this analogy, water and tea. Secular ethics is water, other major religions are coffee, tea. But unfortunately, the coffee drinkers don't think that they have water in it. So that's the reason why, yes, the water has to be emphasized in saying, yes, this is. And make sure first the water base is clean. It's wonderful. And that's how it can be applicable. That's how it can be applicable to everyone, with or without belief. Yet at the same time, someone who cares to believe, they can just hold the water and then add things. You will get coffee, right? But the water will be there. So making sure that the awareness of the water is there, or making sure that the water is clean, the water is there. So it doesn't conflict with any religion. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily depend on any religion. Water doesn't depend on coffee. coffee does. Right? Oh, it's so beautifully presented. Yes, please.
Are there times that the tea leaf pollutes the water?
Pardon?
Are there times that the tea leaves pollute the water?
Yes, unfortunately these days. Yeah, unfortunately these days. Because one professes one religion, we will discuss this, or maybe I will skip it. One professes one religion and thinks that now one is justified to look to others as separate, different, to be looked down upon. That's where tea spoils the water.
And if you try to make coffee with water that is impure, the coffee does not taste very good.
Yeah, definitely. So the first and foremost thing is that the water is clean. The water is clean. Clean from His Holiness's point of view, clean that all it takes for an ethical principle, to stand on are only two pillars: common humanity, interdependence. We don't need any much more sophisticated. So if we base our spirituality, be that with religion or without religion, on this undeniable fact of common humanity, fact of how, despite our differences, we all are very fundamentally same in wanting happiness, do not wanting suffering, in sharing our fallacies, limitations, weaknesses, etc., etc. Kind of focus on the basic similarity, be that from a fallacy point of view, weakness point of view, aspiration point of view, but definitely something that cuts across all barriers. And then, on top of that, we are not unrelated, we are dependent. We are indebted to each other. There's so many things that we enjoy, we take for granted, that we don't even know who made it. And particularly, I think of this in terms of medicines. So many people are involved in it, but we just take it for granted. And for us, it's like a life and death situation. But we just take it for granted. So likewise, there can be so many things on larger scale, smaller scale, whatnot, that we hardly can live out anyone, let alone any human being, even other animals also. So if we could reflect on that and kind of make that the forefront of our lens through which we relate to others, etc., etc., one would have much more space of patience, tolerance, understanding, like that. So all it calls for, the pillar out of on the basis of which this secular ethics could be built on, is just that. And based on that ethics, in terms of how one relates to each other, based on the very fact that nobody wants suffering, nobody wants misery, everybody wants happiness, joy. So that could inform our action, mental, physical, and that could be called the ethics in the secular ethics context. No right and wrong, do and don't kind of thing. Yeah, the golden rule is amazing. It's amazing, and how that be otherwise? These founders of all the major religions are very smart, very smart, very experienced. They really get it. They're saying the core lies in not harming others. And if you could figure out how do we go about harming others, and then kind of fall on saying the emotions, right? The afflictions within us, which is what the source of how we act out. Then I think there's great hope and prospect for our differences to be solved in a much more harmonious way, and also having much more commonalities and common grounds. Okay. So the next one. Next one is, yes, underselling woolen dress. Yeah, I think I'm happy that just the mere mention of I don't have to explain it. Just so it's like I just say something, and each one has an interpretation of your own. And then at the end, we can gather and say, well, how you interpreted it. We can compile it together. It will be a book. Book titled "Underselling Woolen Dress." Like, oh, that's so interesting. So remember, we are talking ethics of altruism, and how this fits in here is that we have to watch, see very sincerely our motivation when we go about doing things billed as for the service of others. And in the course of doing so, unless and until we watch our every step of it, on one's own part, there's danger of losing the sight, losing the sight, losing the focus, and doing something else other than what you intended to do, or else for others who are at the receiving end, do a good service, do a thorough examination of what is there behind the facade. When people come with a big billboard, right? Big billboard saying saying customers first. Saying whatever. So slogan wise, we are doing so good. Right? I usually get very telling, to the point slogans, just merely listening to NPR. I don't have to look anywhere. I have to really search Google, nothing. Just make my tea and then listen to let the NPR just go on. I would have a pen and a slip of paper here. Okay, what else? Yeah.
What does that mean?
I think you already had an interpretation. What was your interpretation? I was joking. Yes. So it says that there may be someone say, "Oh, there is famine, right? There's famine. Oh, we need to really gather supplies," and that person might have been eyeing the wealth of woolen materials there. Or it could be a jewel there that they have been eyeing at it and kind of selling it. But then waiting for the right time, say, famine, yes, definitely this should be sold. And that too, for whatever amount we may get. It's like, pardon?
Overpricing.
Is overpricing, but underselling? I don't know.
He says they would sell it for whatever price they get.
Yeah, for whatever price, and what I'm getting to is a lower price. Yeah, lower price.
Lower price.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Not during a famine.
Pardon? Oh. What was that?
In times of famine.
See, in terms of famine, there will be very little demand.
Yeah, right.
So if you have supply, the price will go down. There is no demand there. Whereas you have a whole lot of supply. I'm just joking. I'm bringing in my economy, whatever.
Maybe not demand for woolen dress.
Yeah.
During a famine.
You need to buy clothes. You need to buy food, not clothes.
Yes.
So you sell your clothes cheaply, so they have money to buy a small amount of food because it's a famine. Right.
Yeah. So what the analogy is?
Say it again.
I like it. This commentary, I like it. Yeah, it is to the point. It is definitely to the point. So what it is saying is that one may, under the pretext of serving others, instead of actually succeeding in serving others, one might end up compromising one's own morality, which is a treasure. So the morality, which is very important, which is the base for all the development, could be just thrown away easily under certain pretexts. So that was underselling. In times of famine, if you were to overprice it, nobody would buy. So you would end up underselling it or underpricing it. I don't know what is the expression. Pardon? Okay. Undervaluing, yes.
Because the person who wants to buy it undervalues it.
Yes. Thank you. Definitely. I'm changing it right away.
So you want undervaluing?
Yes. Yeah, so that's it. So basically what it is saying is that there can be occasions where you may be carried away by this chance of benefiting others, but where the chance is more of losing out than actually gaining. And losing out, that too, on a very important front. That's one's own morality. Because morality is the basis for all the growth that one is looking for. But if that is so easily thrown away, there will be a great loss. Okay. What's the next one? Oh, stepmotherly care. No, definitely. On the contrary, I really mean to make explanation here, saying that don't take it in the face value that all stepmothers are bad. So, yeah, definitely not. Oh, I've known some stepmothers who, even in the case of Buddha himself, yes, if it weren't for his stepmother, poor us, where would be? It would be a whole different story. So I was saying, this just going by the usual convention. So let metaphors be just metaphors, nothing more than that. Don't read too much into it, because nothing is written much into it, just for the face value of it. I'm just joking. Okay. So what it is? Oh yeah. There is this need of watching one's intention when we go about our, presumed service of others. That one may be more concerned about how it would look to others, how others may take it. So that may be having more say in what you do, how you do, rather than in what needs to be done and what your genuine intention requires you to do. So there is this there's this danger of being carried away by how you would impress others, how it would impress others, how others would take it, and that could have a compromising effect on on the sincerity of your intention. But actually, how it explains the stepmotherly care is like the stepmother happens to take the son or daughter to the market, Every once in a while, the stepmother kind of reaches out and then kind of caresses him or her and says, what do you want? What do you want? And then everybody's like, wow, this is so caring. And then once they get back to the home, you, what did you do? Why did you ask for more candy? Like that. Actually, the text actually says that. But again, it's just a convention. Not every stepmother does that. I mean, there's no question. Just look at Buddha's life story, and then others can follow. Oh yeah. But for me, the stepmotherly care came out the best. Really got the most laughter. Okay, then delicate flies. Yes. Again, it was just literally like that. I mean, what I actually... So you have to understand the situation by which I was making this. Right? I mean, I was just looking at Tibetan text, and then I have a time limit to come up with something, and yet at the same time, at least do my best shot, not kind of completely off kilter, completely off kilter, completely catawampas. Yes. By the way, I was trying to really make this connection between catawampas and koddiwomple. Koddiwomple, by the way, is a word that I just got a few days, maybe a week before I came here. I said, this is, pardon? Yeah, yes. What in the world is koddiwomple? Could be a friend of or relative of catawampas? No, far apart. It's so interesting. What we're actually doing here, by way of taking the 8 precept and taking the bodhisattva practice, and also eventually venturing into the perfection of wisdom, is koddiwomple. What we are doing is we are koddiwompling, which means purposefully. Purposefully going in an as yet unknown place. Purposefully, because where we are is catawampas. So what other option do we have if not koddiwomple?
How do you spell it?
What's the root of the word?
I'm gonna get it all.
Wow, we're getting sidetracked. We are really koddiwompling. I thought we were just koddiwompling together, but no, now we have opted to koddiwomple our own ways. Like, what's the root? What's the word? Let me reach out to my iPhone. Whoa. See, this gives me... do you find?
We don't have internet reception.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it says no service. It says no service except for Geshe. Yeah. Yes. So I'm not giving you the root, nothing, but I'm quoting someone who has given this to me, and then we together looked up. Because when I looked up into my own usual dictionary, it wouldn't show up. I said, you got to be very sure, because I'm going to use this, but if there is no such word, how awful that would be. And then we together looked up, Googled and looked up, and we, what do you call it? Got the exact definition. To travel, yes, to travel purposefully towards an as yet unknown destination.
Please spell it.
Yeah. Oh, I see. CODDI DDI WOMPLE. Yes.
CODD.
Ah. DD. Yes. Yeah. DD as in Dadul. Oh, pardon? Yeah, it doesn't look like, definitely. And I looked up into my dictionary, it wouldn't show. And then I said, I waited for the person to come and they say, you send me some word with even meaning, with even meaning, with even meaning, but it doesn't show up in the dictionary. And then we looked up together, we Googled, and then we saw it. So yeah, the reason why we are Kodivampaling, because the place we find ourselves is Kativampas. See? Oh, it goes so well. Oh, Kativampas? CATTYWAMPUS. See, this time I got the spelling. Pardon? Kativampas, CATTY. WAMPUS. Now, it's your homework. Make 2 sentences out of the. Make sure the sentences are not the same. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm not the same.
Oh, yes. Again, back to delicate flight. Oh, how are we doing time-wise?
We needed some laughter.
Yeah, I got my
25 more minutes.
25 months worth laughter yoga covered. Yeah. Whew. Oh, this is good. If you could do Dharma this way, this is fun, right? Wow. I mean, if you get this fun, yet also get Dharma done, this is Dharma fun. Dharma not turning into drama. Actually staying put as Dharma, fun Dharma. Okay. I cannot believe all this is recorded. Pardon? You do? Get me that clip. Please get me that clip. I can sell it. It is copyrighted, please. Be warned, it is copyrighted already. From 5 minutes before and up to now. Okay. I'm losing track.
Flies.
Yeah, flies. Flies. Okay. Yeah. What it is saying is that we have to, with regard to this practice, with regard to this ethics of altruism, merely having zest in doing this, merely having the, the hype of doing this is not enough. One has to really take time in building the strength of it. Otherwise, we would end up like delicate flies. In that, even a slight touch to it, even a slight push to it would undo it, would kill it. Some so delicate, they're too delicate that you can barely touch them, or can hardly touch them. If a mere touch could kill them. So likewise, we wouldn't be able to withstand the unruly behavior of sentient beings. of which there is shortage of supply. Actually, for a bodhisattva, this is a big deal to be aware of, because that's one way of losing bodhicitta. Not out of hatred. It could come out of hatred, where you kind of knowingly, give up on something. But then this way of losing bodhicitta is where you feel discouraged in the face of what was too much to handle, too much to face. And that's not because the problem is itself, that big, but the lack of your courage and the creativity in kind of turning it around. Thanks to Kodivample, to stepmotherly care, to delicate flies. I was worried that this session might be a little boring, but no. So thanks to them. I said thanks to them. Yes, okay. So next one is import of dedication. What that might be? I don't know.
It's about where?
Yeah, it is a counterexample. Okay. I do not have to look for any. I see. Okay, yeah, now I get it. What he's saying is that we have to take, once we have taken the bodhisattva, we have to take it seriously. It is a serious thing with a very big impact, a very great, significant impact. Yet at the same time, as much as the gain is from it, likewise, if we belittle it, if we kind of transgress it, the impact would be as big. Yes, after having taken bodhisattva vow, now here particularly is in relation to bodhisattva vow, right? These precepts. Apart from the 5 guidelines that we touched on yesterday, or was it on the first day, second day? Yesterday, in relation to the wishing bodhicitta. Those are guidelines, not precepts. There's no such thing as transgressing would incur any breach, but guidelines that if you follow them, you would benefit from that. And benefit, we talked about how it would help in strengthening the bodhicitta in this life and also in recalling that in next life, right? But right now we are in the middle of discussing ethics, which is associated with ethics in terms of precepts, which is bound to which is binding after having taken the vow, after having taken the bodhisattva code of conduct. So, in that respect, having sampathawane, having wholeheartedly accepted sentient beings to be your guest, to share your virtues with, if through due to negligence, whatnot, you end up deceiving them, right? You end up deceiving them. Then, because of the dedication, okay, so I know. So, because of the pledge, or because of the pledge promise that you made, and against which this kind of act goes stark opposite, the impact of that would be as much. So this kind of understanding should make us more serious, I think, more serious in taking more to being more serious in upholding the precepts once one has taken. So the next one is doing harm benefit, not benefit, but harm benefit. Yeah, basically what it is drawing from a similar episodes that we touched on, where similar episodes we touched on, Robin Hood like episodes. I don't know exactly what intention Robin Hood actually had. Is Robin Hood a real life thing or a legendary?
It's based on our real thing now. It has nothing to do with arrows. The whole tinker, whatever it is.
I see.
Such thing as
Yeah.
distributing the wealth from the rich.
Okay. In India also we had someone by the name of Veerapan, who was a big sandalwood smuggler, but he was very generous to the poor people. But he was looting the sandalwood property of the state, of the nation, and selling it up. So anyway, we cannot tell what their intention actually is, but what it is saying here is we should not, unless and until we have built the strength of bodhicitta and have the clarity of purpose, clarity of how things, clarity of purpose, etc. We should not rush for doing something that could be billed as helping others. One has to do a thorough research in terms of what it entails in terms of affecting others. One may be focused on benefiting someone, but how what one does is affecting others. So there could be an adverse impact on somebody that we may have not thought of while we were just narrowly focusing on helping some. And that primarily has to do with the weakness of one's own bodhicitta, as well as the weakness of the complementing wisdom elements, etc. So once again, is reminding that yes, serving others could take the form of not bringing more damage to others. Also, it doesn't necessarily have to always take the form of kind of what you call take a constructive form. Take a pardon? Yeah, take an active form. Rather, it could take a passive form also. Yes, thank you. Yeah, let's sing this and then move on to the next one. We definitely need to clear our throats from those laughters. O chan chu sembe chu de ne ma cha mi cha pa me cha pa ni ja ma yin de ma cha mi cha pa me. So you remember, right? Only in the first line, the penultimate syllable of the first line and the one above that is what is changed. Right? So in this case, Chanju Sembe Chultim. That's Chultim is ethics. So likewise in all others, that's where the change will come. Right? It's always two syllables change. Except for that, all the others are not changed. So you shouldn't have any excuse in failing the test at the end of the semester. At the end of the semester. At the end of this 4-day semester. This is the order from Professor Geshe. Okay. Yes. So I was thinking of sharing. It would be good to get some idea of what form the altruistic ethical conduct. What samples have been given in the scriptures, right? usually it says 11. It'd be good to, yeah, it is interesting. So I'll just spell some, not go through all of them. So neba, if someone is ill, right? If someone is ill and it is called upon you to serve them, and then one should not lag behind in this call. But then if by reason of the sick person being either not that respected in the community or not that respected or of lowly education, under whatever pretext, either right, true or not, if out of arrogance, out of sense of arrogance, one shuns that duty, then that is a breach. That is a breach, not just breach, that is an afflicted breach. Whereas even not response to this call out of laziness, then that would be, of course, still a breach, but not an afflicted breach. It's so interesting. Afflicted in the sense that that breach would be counted, the previous one would be counted to have been induced by an affliction. But here, lelo nyomle, right, kind of a sloppiness, or what is that? Or what's the laziness, sloppiness, indolence? If that's the reason behind not showing up, then there will still be a breach. When it is a breach, even though if it is not afflicted, and breach would have, because of having taken the vow willingly, when one breaches it, when one breaks it, there will be breach, there will be price to pay. And likewise, when one upholds it at times of, not only at times of need, but all throughout. Ever since you have taken the vow, irrespective of whether one meets with a situation that calls for such an action or not, one would still be accruing the merit. So one would still be earning interest. But then, all throughout, one is earning interest. But when it's time for you to spend, and you say, "No, I don't," then it has a price to pay. Right? So basically what I'm saying is, having taken the vow, when one lags behind, when one fails in living up to it in the face of his situation, then one incurs a breach. But then, if one has more important things to do, or if at least from one's own understanding, the person can manage it himself or herself, or the person can call some other help, or that you have more important thing to, because of previous engagement or previous appointment, or a monastic rule kind of keeps you from responding to the call, then it wouldn't be a breach. So goes the same with someone suffering, and also so goes the same with someone who is what do you call pakme, who is undisciplined and careless and needs disciplining. One should not shun that responsibility if that seems to fall on you. One should not shun that responsibility. Rather, do one's utmost in rising up to the call and doing the best. So here, one particular affliction that could affect is like kind of sense of looking down on them with a sense of arrogance. One could be looking down upon them. So if one does that out of such an arrogance, that would be a breach. Additionally, an afflicted breach. If one does that out of indolence, out of what do you call, laziness, whatnot, then that would be a breach nonetheless, but not an afflicted one. If one has other reasonable reasons, right?
Geshe, are you saying breach or bridge? You're saying a breach.
Yes, breach. Yes, transgression. Yes, sorry. Yes, another one. I'm not caring to spell all of them. So there's one. One is if one should be responsive to others' kindness, others' care, others' benefaction. Not out of any ulterior motive, but with pure appreciation of their service, and that is perfectly what you do here at the. You do very good job in really acknowledging them, be that in the newsletters or in person, in writing, in your practice, all of those. So that's one area where sometimes monks and nuns could lag behind, thinking, "Oh, that would be worldly thing to do." But it will not become worldly unless one has worldly, concern, worldly attitude attached to it, out of genuine appreciation. If one doesn't do that, out of laziness, indolence, whatnot, that would be breach, etc. And so goes the same with generosity also. Yes, when time comes, if you are called on to speak of good qualities of others, one should rise up to the occasion and should not be, should not be stepping back out of any afflicted consideration, be that trying to show that they are not worthy of being praised when they are actually, etc. And of course, in terms of what praises you make, those should be factual, realistic. But nonetheless, one should be willing to rise to that occasion when it falls on you. But at the same time, if the scenario is such that somebody could very easily to do that, or you have very important true engagement or important work, then that's either no breach or a breach with no affliction involved in it. Yes, when some situations, drastic situations happen that requires immediate decision, whatnot, one should not be, holding back. And this is dealing with, serious breach or serious damage, not out of any bias consideration. One should be shunning from the responsibility in really pointing the finger to the wrong, but do so do so calmly without giving into anger, and also yes, and do so with obviously do so without giving into anger, but peacefully. And if the person is still are not willing to listen to, then even if take such steps as dispelling them, but do so again without being mentally disrupted, mentally afflicted. There's one thing. If somebody has extraordinary power, or if someone has extrasensory power in, I don't know if it is magical or not. They have capacity of creating magical appearances or whatnot. Sometimes when it is calling, when that is the only measure by which one could tame someone, one could tame an unruly person, then unlike in Vinaya, unlike in Pratimoksha level, here at the Bodhisattva level, it seems like that's called forth. Okay, so those are some instances of what the scripture kind of actually lists in this category of serving others, altruistic activity.
Wasn't clear in the first one. This was where the person was sick.
Mm-hmm.
You're called on to serve them. Are you saying there that if the person wasn't respected in the community, or if the person that it was sick was lowly, or if they were arrogant and you shunned the duty, or is it on the side of the person who's trying to serve them? I wasn't.
It could be any reason. Any reason. It could be any reason. Be that from your part, you have difficulty in dealing with that. You had fight with that person, or that person is unruly in general, etc., etc. But and that person is much younger. I mean, there's this big gap of seniority, whatnot. All those considerations are null and void. Even in this respect, it even says even if the sick is an animal also. So let's move on to what is the next one? Yes, the paramita of fortitude. What should you think about?
We had the 7 ways of stinginess to get rid of with generosity. Is there a similar list with ethical conduct?
Yeah, and there's one about generosity. It says, "Norde pala chimiche." Those who are in sincere, what do you call, need of nor need of wealth, need of some material needs. If the situation is such that it would be just you who would be responding to it, otherwise there's no one, or the situation is such that it kind of is, we can understand, right, situations where somebody may be going through something and we happen to be the only expected person to respond to, who happen to know the ins and outs of what that person has or not, etc. So in such situation, one has to respond to the call. If one doesn't, out of any sense of either giving into stinginess or etc., and that would be a breach with affliction. If out of busyness, out of whatever, you somehow fail in taking time out, not out of any sense of stinginess, but somehow you got so busy, yet that was who they could be. But you were the only person that they could be counting on. Then if one fails to respond to that, there will be breach, but not necessarily with affliction.
I was asking more about the verse that we were reciting, Machag Michag.
Oh, I see. I think.
Do we just substitute unethical actions?
Pardon?
7 ways of.
I see. Here I think mainly it would be related to, say, first. I think I'm not so sure because the text I'm referring to is a bridged text, so it doesn't really go into details of it and comparing it with it. But what I suspect is, of course, the first one, giving into stinginess, and when it comes to kind of procrastinating it, then it may fall more in the category of bridging it, but yet not with affliction. Kind of.
The question is, if we can take those 7 points and go through each one of them and make an example with ethical conduct. Okay, so what would the first matcha?
Yeah.
What would be?
I see.
Conduct,
An example of that.
Oh,
okay. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So examples of them, kind of.
I'll say, like the first one, not being swayed by gross manifest.
Not being swayed by
Yeah.
gross manifest stinginess. In this case, we would say not being swayed by gross manifest non-ethical behavior, or
No. Here it would be. A case of giving into gross stinginess could very easily make for this bridge. Oh yeah.
with ethical
This
conduct.
one's for ethical conduct.
Which one?
So, okay, forget about generosity and stinginess.
Oh, I see.
Let's look at Macha, Micha, Chap, Pame
I see. Okay.
in terms of ethical conduct.
Oh, I see.
Okay? So what would the first matcha be?
I see. The first machak would be a bridge. Chak would be a bridge.
Yeah, but an example.
I see. So suppose you have a precept to observe, right? Suppose you have a precept to observe, and you fail in observing it. Kind of what do you call succumbing to a breach of it, succumbing to a breach of that precept. Then that would be the first one. The second one is if you have to do it because of your precept and you keep postponing it. Like you have a binding, you have a precept to look after someone, right? Or respond to some particular call. Then if you put it off, then that would be the second case of chakpa. And in the case of the third one is kind of doing just a little bit and being kind of, say if you have the precept of instructing someone, you just instruct just a little bit and let it do with it, although you think that more could be taught.
But those are precepts, the examples you're giving are of doing something. But what about examples of not doing something?
I see. Yeah, I think then there it will take the form of postponing abstention, something like that. Postponing, yeah. So the actual precept entails you to abstain from something, right? And if you are not honest in abstaining it right away, kind of postpones it, and that's how, like untimely food, you say. I'll do it. I'll start it from tomorrow or the next day, like that. That's the way of kind of breaching it under the force of procrastination. So then it would be fourth one, right? Did you get 3?
The example was instructing somebody. Again, that's something.
I see. I see.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be like keeping your precept in one situation but not in another?
Yeah, something like that, I think. Yeah, not necessarily postponing it, but kind of being satisfied with only one time observance of it, but not on other occasions. I think so. So then the fourth would be what? See, in the case of Bodhisattva, of course, attaching a very, worldly worldly expectation with that abstention or observance. And then in the other one, yes, again, expecting some karmic result in the next life of you. And then the third, the last, the fourth, fifth, sixth one would be giving into a self-cherishing attitude. Yeah, sixth is subtle latencies, failing to observe it by succumbing to the force of subtle latency, and then the last one is observing the precept, be that in the form of abstention or constructive or active, engaging in it, yet at the same time failing to view at the three spheres through the lens of emptiness. And what we have to remember is not to machak, not to chuck, not get stuck. Pardon? Yeah, unstuck. Yes. Bodhisattva's ethical conduct is not stuck, unstuck, never stuck. It is not at all stuck, not stuck, unstuck, never stuck. I really like it. I'm stuck with it. I'm stuck with this thing about unstickiness. Oh, I guess we can start. Yes, thank you.